the king of Isosceles is afraid to let her speak. He sees her more of it as an ornament than anything else. Welcome back to another bookish review. Now today we are going to be talking about The Betrothed by Kiera Cass. Now, there are going to be spoilers for this book, so if you plan to read this book in the future, then skip this review so you're not spoiled for anything in the book. Now, I picked this book up because I was out on a bike ride one day, and I go to shops to have something to do and somewhere to ride to, and the cover of this book caught my eye, so I figured I'd check it out. We find ourselves set in like medieval times where women of high families were considered ladies and kings still ruled the land. We follow our main character Hollis, and when I say I struggle to remember her name, I mean it, because this girl has no personality. She's supposedly super kind and sweet and funny, but Kiera really does a bad job of showing you that she is all of those things that people make her out to be. Like, there's a couple of times she's quirky and like she gets into a snowball fight with, or not a snowball fight, I don't know what they were throwing at each other. They were throwing fruit at each other, I think. Apparently her silliness catches the king's eye, and so he fawns over her, but she's like, oh, he'll never love me because he always has different ladies on his arm, and that as soon as he's bored one, he tosses them to the side. I'm just going to be the next one. He throws to the side. That's going to be nothing new. In turn, when the king dumps his first lady, or however many ladies it's been, he sets his sights on Hollis, who he says is the only girl to make him laugh in a long time. Again, I couldn't tell you why. She's incredibly boring. She only does a couple of things that would be like, okay, I could see a little bit why, but like, that was 2 things. You're gonna have to give us more than that before we believe she's an interesting person. The king starts courting Hollis, and at first he's very much into it because he's like, I guess, her childhood crush or whatever you want to call it, and she looks up to him because he is the king. But everything starts to move so fast for her once she has the king's favor. He starts giving her crown jewels and starts like giving her the queen's apartments, which is where the queen lives, to be away from the servants and everything else. He starts making her attend like kingly matters and like important matters of the state, and she's like, whoa, this is all moving far too fast for me. We need to take a step back. I don't think I'm ready to be queen yet. Like, I'm not even queen, and you're throwing all this responsibility on me. And he doesn't seem worried about it because he seems determined to make her his queen. And that's when another family shows up, and this family, it turns out, is from a neighboring kingdom called Isosceles. And they're not enemies, but they're not really friends. They're kind of frenemies. And this is all a rushed thing. Like, the family comes seeking like solace from their king because he's dark and twisted because old age is making him bitter, and he does not have an heir of his own yet, so he feels like his line will be threatened because he has no heir to claim the throne. And this family that came from Isosceles was running from the king because they're a bloodline that could threaten the claim to the throne. It's all very complicated, very boring court matters. And it turns out that this family has an oldest son, and he very quickly catches Hollis's eye, and she falls like insta-love for this boy, and starts to notice little things about the king that she didn't notice prior, that started making him be undesirable to her and making her fall out of love with him. And so she starts like talking to this boy from Isosceles, Silas. He is a metal worker who made swords and everything else. So Hollis suggests to the boy, make us a medallion for the kings, one that looks similar to show that they can be friends and that the two kingdoms can get along. So he does that for her, and through those actions and through little hidden conversations in the hallway, Hollis starts to fall more and more in love with Silas. Mind you, it's only been like 2 or 3 days at this point. This all happens, and then the king comes with his queen. At first, I didn't like the queen of Isosceles because she seemed like a heartless, stuck-up, I'm better than everybody snooty bitch, for lack of a better word. And I did not like that. But through, like, off to the side conversations with Hollis, you find out that she's only that way because the king of Isosceles is afraid to let her speak. He sees her more of it as an ornament than anything else, and that she is pregnant with child and has already lost 2. So she is worried that if she fails to produce an heir for the king again, she will be proven useless, and who knows what would be done to her after that. You find out that she has more depth to her, and she's not just this evil queen who's better than everybody because a stupid title. And so she quickly becomes the most in-depth character to me, and quickly becomes my favorite character because Hollis is so dry and one note. Jameson's an obsessive, controlling jerk, which that's the king, by the way. Silas is just kind of there. He just floats along. He's a yes man to Hollis, and that's all he really does. And the queen, we find out, is afraid of someone called the Dark Knights, which we then find out is why Silas's family came to the kingdom in the first place. They were running from the Dark Knights because they wanted nothing to do with their king anymore, because he was turning into an old, grumpy fool. That was the most interesting part about it, was the queen and her relationship with the king. In all honesty, I would have rather read a book about the queen of Isosceles, because I feel like that has a much more interesting story set to it than I would have read about Hollis, because she is just a cookie cutter character. She has no personality other than the 2 quirky things she did in the entire book. She's exceedingly friendly, yet she's a backstabbing, flip on a dime person. And the Dark Knights are set up to be this merciless, dark, evil, just terrible thing. And when they finally attack, we don't get to see it. We don't get to see any of it. We're told the damage afterwards because we were stuck in Hollis's perspective the whole time. It all comes back to show, don't tell. Because she was doing a lot more telling than showing, everything felt forced, everything felt rushed, and I really hope that the second one is better because I already got it, so here's hoping. But that's what I read. What are you guys reading? I hope to see you next time.